Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Helm to Tower podcast. That's right, our now a weekly Destiny 2 podcast about all things Destiny 2 and the video game
Destiny 2.
Wow. Yep, that's right. I'm Mike Burgess, and I'm here with Alex O'Neill. That's right. We're back. Thanks everybody who checked out the first episode. I hope you liked it. But we're here now, a week later, talking about some more updates and things that are going on in the world of Destiny. The story's ended, as we know. We talked about it last week. That happened. We had another weekly reset, but no story. We're waiting now till the 14th of February. I think is when the finale event is happening. So nothing there. So I think we're both in like prep mode, so to speak, right? Of just like, now we're just kind of checking boxes, doing little extra things to get ready for Lightfall, but you know, nothing too crazy. I would say that's definitely what that's what I've spent my week doing, more or less, is just kind of like the busy work of getting bounties and prepping for that. I finished off a bunch of the catalysts that I had left over, so I went and did the Cloud Strike catalyst, and then I'm not going to do it yet, but I think next week I will do the Jade Rabbit catalyst because I'm a sicko. But yeah, you know, why not?
I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. Maybe we can do that here at the top.
Sure.
Prep time.
Prep time.
I definitely, similar bounties, obviously, for us sickos. I posted my first D2 column on irrationalpassions.com.
Yeah.
Like I talked about last week. Of course, like the news that we got threw a little bit of a wrench in some of the things I want to talk about there. But the general idea was like just to kind of introduce myself to the Destiny community. 5 things that I think are going great in D2. 5 things that I think could be better. I don't know if you had the chance to check it out.
I read through some of it when you initially posted for edits, so I read through some of it there, and I don't know how much you adjusted it from that though, but
just a little bit. Basically, put a disclosure before the thing about champions being like, "Hey, this is probably going to be different."
yeah. Turns out,
just right now,
very different.
yeah. It's just like we're running GMs like right now, so
yeah.
It's just that reminder of like right now where champions are is not great, I would say. But
it feels restrictive on top of the other things. But obviously we covered in the last episode that's changing dramatically. Match game is also going away, so I think that's going to be it's going to feel very different. Those Grandmaster Nightfalls, and we also learned some of the rewards that are coming and some other things as well this week.
Yeah.
We'll get into some of that. But yeah, what were some of the other things that were in your article? Just shout them out.
For sure. I think like the things that the number one thing that is going like kind of under, it's when it's good, you never want to talk about it, right? Which is like the loot. That was like a big part of my pros. Like, I don't think loot has ever been this good in Destiny, right? And part of my checklist things I was trying to get done this week, I was trying to get the seal for the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, which I got done, the Wanted title, which just took me forever and a day to get the sidearm to drop once. I got a pretty spicy roll of it though, so I'm excited about that.
Excellent.
And getting the Hierarchy of Needs catalyst and getting that done, getting the Touch of Malice catalyst, which I ended up getting done finally last night, nice. and completing that, and getting Trusty, which is the only gun that I really needed to get from Deepstone Crypt craftable. For folks wouldn't know, but basically the first like 12 runs of that entire raid I did, never got a single Trusty. Don't know why. Luckily my red border luck was not as bad, so nice. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna farm some of that tomorrow as well from the day we're recording this. So
yeah, I'm gonna finish out some other stuff.
Yeah, so like those were the big things, like getting my bounties in line. I'm also, while I'm doing the Dreaming City Senate challenge bounties. I'm like finally doing the eggs and the Cara bones.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Since you're doing the week by week ones, you might as well just do all that stuff too. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, those were the big boxes of just like big things I wanted to get done. The only like real thing that I'd like to do before Lightfall now, because I'm feeling pretty good. The Disruptor title, the duality title, I just need to get an arc run in there. I kind of want to do that. But also, I want to grind for Collective Obligation, which is like the one raid gun that I don't have that I would very much like to have.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. I'm sure that would be worthwhile to get with the changes coming for sure. I mean, I ended up doing a lot of like similar stuff really because I've been doing the bounty prepping, and I had already did a lot of the egg collecting and gathering back in the haze of 2020 and season of arrivals where I was binge moding this game pretty hard. I mean, it's all played a lot still, like a pretty similar, but that was definitely a whole different era. But since I did a lot of deep stone crypt farming earlier this week as well, and kind of got at that point I'd been running it like somewhat weekly with my clan, and had been trying to get red borders, but it was not very great for the drops up until this week. But you're still at least able to buy one at the end. So a lot of times it just turned into, let's just get a Tannic CP, melt them, and then go buy the red border. And luckily by this week, I'd already been 4 out of 5 for trustee. So I got my last trustee, and then we just did a bunch of the second encounter, Atrax, and farming that. And boy, that is super easy if you've not done that yet. Holy crap, you can
do it.
You can do it real fast.
Put on your Titan and your Parasite and have a good time.
And you just do it. We did that for like an hour one night early this week, and like pretty much like there was probably like 3 out of the 6 of us in my clan like had no red borders for either of the 2 weapons that dropped from that. And by the end of that hour, like most of them had finished both of those. I will say I came out. I need 1 more shotgun and 2 more snipers. So I was kind of like in the middle. We had one guy that was kind of unlucky and like got barely nothing, which was kind of unfortunate. So like we had the full gambit of that. So like there still is definitely an RNG aspect to the drops, but like I will say, like if you were thinking about doing that kind of stuff or curious about it, like I definitely think it's a lot better and it feels better.
We did some in one of the groups that I run with, and I got from Atrax 1 run. We only did like 4 runs of Atrax, I think. So we could have done more. I got a red Succession and a red Heritage at the same time from the double chest. And then from the boss, I got 2 red commemorations, 1 from each chest. I was like, oh yeah. And then the pinnacle I got from beating it this week was a red Bequest. I was like, okay. So I got literally 1 red, and we grinded the first encounter for a red trustee as well. So I got 1 red border of each gun in the raid, which felt really good because I also got a posterity from the 3rd encounter.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely feels good. I'm like only like 1 or 2 on everything but trustee. And reusing it, I was like, man, I would really love to craft commemoration with like reconstruction killing tally or something.
There's a lot of really good rolls on that. So that's kind of been where I'm going down the line. Like I got trustee down first. That was, I think, a lot of people's, including ourselves, like the first one to go for. So I have that crafted. I'm starting to level that up. My next one was the sniper. That's like probably I'm not a big sniper person in general, but for some reason, like specifically like raid snipers, I've always really ended up liking those. And that's like the same with like this Deepstone one and the King's Fall one. And even going all the way back to the Last Wish one, I have a couple of those that I remember using back in the day.
Supremacy,
it's still in my vault, and I like them quite a lot. But other than that, though, I don't really like a lot of the other snipers of the game. But just it's always been those raid ones that have really stuck out for me. And yeah, Succession was definitely the one I've used the most out of most snipers in general. So that was like my second on the list, and then I want to eventually get that commemoration as well because I always like that machine gun. So I'm working on the finally getting that title as well for Deepstone. The what is it, Descendant? I did the last challenge I need with my clan. They helped me out graciously. and now I just need a stasis run and a solar run, and then I'll finally have that title. So hopefully I can get that soon. That would be something that I would like to get done before the season or before Lightfall, but you know, we'll see how it goes.
We'll get one of those done probably tomorrow. So
yeah. So
and luckily I have the first encounter checkpoint, so we can just skip right to it.
Nice.
Just jump right into it. Go ahead. Not worry about the spare section at all.
Yep. Don't have to do any of that. Nice. But yeah, I did a bunch of the catalyst as well. Like I had the hierarchy catalyst.
That's a really good catalyst, by the way.
Yeah, it is pretty fun. It makes it. You just shoot faster. That's like, okay, yeah, great, cool.
I really like that bow. I just got it last week. So this week I got it Monday night technically. So it's really fun. I really like it.
Yeah. It's a fun bow. Has a fun loop to it. I'll be curious if they do anything with it though, because I know like there was like a fun kind of interaction with the Warmind cells with it, but now Warmind cells, as we know from last week, are going away. So I'm curious if they'll like just take that interaction where if you shoot the bow, you shoot it with a shot with a Warmind cell, it makes like the big ring and makes way bigger. I'd be curious if they maybe like split the difference and like make that ring bigger, maybe not as big as it was with that, but maybe just like make it bigger because why not? Because it's losing that interaction. But I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't do any GMs or anything this week. I know Horror's Leash was up, but I already kind of have a couple good rolls of that. I definitely think I might try and get some in next week with either our group or my clan. Maybe I might just try and see if they want to knock them out because I only have 3 left to do, and it's Hung Jury next week, and that'll be I think Hung Jury will be around next season for Adept drops, but I was just like it's like why not? Because it's like, hey, Hung Jury, that's a good weapon, and the only other really gun I'd want to grind for is the Wendigo grenade launcher, and that's the last week of the season right before Lightfall, and that is also could be Word of Nothing, and that one's super easy anyway. So I figured it was like, might as well just do that next week if I can, and just check the box on Conqueror for the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know how much they updated the Hung Jury loot pool. Yeah,
I don't know if it has any new combinations. I believe now it has the Origin perks because I don't know if it dropped before with the Origin perks. So I think that's like the one big difference.
Fluid Dynamics obviously is very good.
Yeah.
It looks. I see the two of the new perks they added are Offhand Strike and Gut Shot. The most popular perks in the game. So that's a little
whatever, but it's still really solid. Like I had I think a subsistence explosive payload one I used a lot. It was still a really good scout.
Yeah, you still get that roll on it, so and it's gold now. The Adept one,
gold,
which is fun.
Oh yeah, always a good time. So yeah, that might be something I work on this coming week. And as we continue, sort of the I would say it's sorted down time-ish as the week goes on. But
I love it though. I love expansion prep time. I think that's just so fun.
I usually also kind of like this time too, and not always feeling like I have to like work on a checklist all the time. Sometimes it's just nice to just be like, okay, I can just kind of, I crafted a bunch of stuff and now I'm just like working on them and leveling some stuff up and just kind of meandering and doing what I want instead of just, all right, I've got to get on and do this week. I got to do this, and this before I can do any of that this week.
Yeah.
So I can, get some coals or do this or that,
Yeah, I got everything crafted. The only it would be nice to get Midas Reckoning is like the last. I need one more red border for Midas Reckoning. Then I have everything King's Fall and Kingslayer, and I'm done. And in theory, I just never have to run that raid again, even though I love it. So I would be happy to. But did the catalyst for Touch of Malice last night, and that the basketball dunks is fun.
It's pretty fun. The run up to that though is pretty harrowing. But once you get into the room, it's pretty fun. But that's where I'm at. But yeah, I think the only other things I want to do, like the big goals I had, I will say, besides that for the rest of the season is I probably want to try and get those dungeon titles because I am pretty close on both of them. I just need to do all I really need to do is a solo run of the Spire, and then I'll have that pretty much. And then I need freaking Heart Shadow to still drop from Duality. So that's like the only tricky part is like, hey, getting people to like just run this with me, please, thanks.
Yeah, when is that up? What week is that?
I think it's coming up actually.
I think it's 2 weeks from now, right?
What is it this week?
I think it's Prophecy this week.
Prophecy this week? Yeah.
So then it's Grasp next, and then Duality after that. Yeah, I'd grind that boss out because I still need a 1 red border of the fusion rifle.
Yeah.
So
I need 1 more of the machine gun as well. So yeah, maybe we can set something.
That boss is easy once you get it down. So yeah.
Yeah, it's easy. I need to do that.
I was doing Master Spire boss checkpoint earlier this week just to get a little bit of Artifice armor. And again, try please to get the sidearm. Eventually got one.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty easy.
It's pretty easy. Just put on Lucian Finisher and just have one person doing the things. One person keep the boss busy, and then just the other person goes back and forth finishing the 2 Overload champions over and over again. And so there's just piles of heavy ammo everywhere.
Yep.
And that's it.
Pretty much.
Rocking him to death.
Yeah, it was I did that. We just did a checkpoint with my clan to get the clear on it a few weeks ago, and we just pretty similar.
I did the whole master run for
murdered that thing.
Whatever reason, but it wasn't too bad.
yeah. It seems easier, and I've been starting to look into strats for solo stuff for both those dungeons.
I'm telling you.
Now that I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, okay, this seems not as painful as I thought it'd be, but hey, who knows? Once I go in there, maybe I'll get the reality check, but we'll see.
For folks out there listening that are trying to solo the dungeons this season, obviously best season to do it. Solo operative is great. Weekend clear is also great, and you can have both on at the same time.
Yep.
I'm all in on the Karnstein, Healy Warlock, Infinite Glaive kills strat. It got me through all of the dungeons except for was the moon one. That one. Scarlet Keep.
The Hollow
Pit of Heresy.
Pit of Heresy. That's what it was. I knew it was like Pit or Hollow or.
It was a hole of some kind. And that one was just breezy. I did actually use Heart Shadow to get through the ogre section of that, but
right.
It's this is the season to do it. That's my recommendation. If you're a Warlock main out there like me, throw on those Karnsteins, get a glaive that you like, maybe one with Demolitionist and rock healing grenades as well, just for extra protection. And I think it's not too bad.
Yeah, I'm thinking of just going the quote unquote easy route and just doing a Loreley Titan thing, because I've seen a lot of people just being like, just Loreley Titan is still very good. And just the survivability factor of it is very clutch. So, and that's what I did with I did a earlier like a month ago. I did solo flawless for Pit of Heresy, and that's what I did on that. And it was it's pretty. Pretty breezy. So,
to be clear to everyone listening, I did not flawless any of these dungeons. I did solo all of them, but I did not flawless any of them.
Yeah, I would at least try and solo them and then see how I feel about soloing them, because that's what I did with Pit also. Like I did it was probably like 3 or 4 runs total, and I just the initial runs were more just like all right, I need to just learn this, because that was really the only problem is like I do that dungeon so rarely that I was just like, all right, I need to learn how to run around this weird maze with all the spike traps and stuff, and actually learn where these how to platform around this. Like that was honestly like the hardest part for me, which is pretty funny. But like, once I got that down, I just kind of cruised through it with the Loreley Titan.
Put it on record, because I said that this would happen. The duality, the little air chute that you have to go down, never killed me anytime I ran it, except for the time I soloed it. And I'm like, this seems right.
Yeah,
this does seem to line up, but it didn't matter. I was much dead by that point. So.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to trying those. I'll get to it. Try and get to it before the end of the season. For sure. But other than that, there were actually some news in the world of blogs and Bungie blogs, and also the PC Gamer got some interviews with Bungie devs and stuff. So we're gonna go over some of that stuff now. That's coming with Lightfall and updates coming soon. The first thing, which was the PC Gamer article that came out earlier this week. That was more of a follow up to last week, and obviously our track record of making a podcast, then putting it out said podcast, and literally a day after a bunch of more clarifications or two things happen. Our streak continues even outside of other podcasts that we do.
Yep.
But yeah, this is just like basically they had on PC Gamer this article from Tim Clark was basically a follow up of him asking questions to Bungie developers of this huge mod system and build crafting overhaul that they're doing with Lightfall, and like what are some things that some lingering questions that the kind of community had, and some other things. So I put a quick shout out of two of the biggest things in the article, but I think we can just kind of quick go through it because it's not like a super long article. It's more like a Q&A than anything. The first big thing is, which I think has already been discussed a decent amount in the Destiny circles, is they're nerfing tier 10 resilience, which has been
the least surprising thing.
Yeah, I kind of felt that too. It was definitely a hot button topic though for a lot of people in the community, because it's a lot of people see it as making it maybe a little too easy for end game content, but some people also didn't know the difference, and of course they're the people that are you're hearing that mostly from are the top of the top players, and it was obviously one of them was has a 3-time world first belt, so there is definitely a clear differentiation of an average player to that kind of player, but I think he still had. I think even from my level, I can still see that as pretty valid. As it definitely felt pretty different when those changes came in, and then we went into GMs, and it's wow, this GM that was we were struggling to get through, a season or two ago, we're just kind of breezing through it's no problem. That was obviously we're getting the 3.0 subclass updates, so they were. We just also got a lot more powerful options and tools to use, but also just you could tank a lot more damage in a way. And to a certain extent, I didn't mind that in some regards, at least personally, just because I think some of the earlier frustrations when I remember from doing GMs before all this was things that just kind of would one shot you out of the blue. I think of one of the thing that was the most frustrating about particular, there was Hollowed Layer, which is a Sunset Strike, and that was a terrible, probably the worst GM experience I feel I've ever had. And some of our are from our group that we play with pretty regularly can attest to that, because that was the one that was the horror,
the snipers were wild.
It was wild, and the horror story of we probably spent a solid 6 to 8 hours just one day on a weekend trying to beat that, because it was we would just lose something like that, or the boss room being so immensely intense because he could just pop you in one hit, and you're just well, we're done. If this rotation is ruined, we can't do anything about it, and now we're just gonna get overwhelmed. And it's
constantly in cover. Constantly hiding behind things, and I still have qualms with the GM feeling as a whole, right? I still think especially when you compare it to something, and I actually wrote about this a little bit in my column, especially when you compare it to something like legendary difficulty, which isn't trying to be the hardest of difficulties in the game, but feels like this really good needle that scales with the amount of players that you have. So that's kind of a different thing. GMs are just flat GMs, which is hey, you're under 25 level, go have fun, I guess. Witch Queen launched without the Resilience Sin, and then Season of the Haunted, which came out in May, right? End of May. That's when Resilience was changed. And I think it's also really weird. We're in a weird spot with Resilience as a stat as a whole, just because it's Titans always are going to have max resilience because that is associated with their class ability. And resilience now also has a very big impact on gameplay. And recovery is in a similar place. Like, I don't like playing with low recovery. I am a warlock, so of course, but like having high recovery versus no recovery can make a big difference in how quickly gameplay moves for you, how quickly you can kind of get back into combat. And then there's mobility, which does virtually nothing, right? Like your walking speed and your jump height, base jump height, not even your double jump height. And like those things don't matter because they're all balanced in a way that you can kind of get to anything that you need to get to regardless of class anyways. So it does put hunters in a tricky spot. I don't know if like a 10% change is going to make a big difference to resilience. In my head, like in a weird way, it feels like the damage resistance resilience should like be its own stat, separate from Titan resilience, right? Or Titans should get their class ability from something else. But like I know a lot of these things are like so old, it would be weird to change them now, or it'd be difficult. But yeah, it's the vibe that I think you and I had after this announcement was like, all right, well, it's still going to be more than worth it to have 10 resilience. And they said that it's going to be a bit of a better curve. Maybe it like goes from 30% to like 28% to 26%. Like, we don't know those kinds of numbers yet. I'm sure we might even have a video on it as soon as that we know that information, right? But it still seems like, all right, well, if you could have a flat 30% damage resistance going into a combat focused legendary campaign, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think the thing this is going to do ultimately, which I think will be a good thing, in some respects, is even class, regardless of your class you're playing, like it feels pretty much like if you want to be playing the biggest of the most end game content, you want to have 100 resilience because you're getting that damage resistance. Where like now, like you still want to have it, but like it seems more worthwhile, like you said, like if you're playing a warlock, you can take maybe some of that. If the curve is not as insane, you can maybe run like slightly lower resilience and maybe you spec more into your recovery, or like with a hunter, like hunter's weird because like I agree that like mobility is kind of just it's in a weird place stat wise. Like the only place it matters is like PvP because like you get stuff with that, and like it is like, and with the hunter, I know I think you get your dodge faster and stuff like that with more mobility.
Yeah, and to be fair, the hunter has the fastest class ability cooldown by a pretty significant margin.
Yeah. And like that's like it is weird in general just to like having these class abilities tied to these, because there's also just like a billion mods and things that give you your abilities back so quickly even without having those high stats. Like I have I think on my hunters, most of my hunter builds, I don't even think I'm over like 30 mobility. I'm at that, which is like the baseline mobility, and I can still get my dodges and my back super fast, and like the same on pretty much all my classes. Like I like the easily mobility is the lowest stat on all of them, and I can and I've never had an issue of like, oh, I'm super low. I'm always not having this ability because I have so many things that let me freely recharge in a way. So I wonder if that's maybe is a change they might make in the future. But I ultimately think that'll just depend on how this new mod system and build crafting stuff works. Where like if you're still able to just kind of freely get all your abilities back super fast, regardless of kind of what even some of your stats are, through doing mods and things like that, I could see them just being like, well, you can just do this so freely. Like, let's just give them more static, cooldowns to like the barricade and the rifts and the dodges that aren't tied to these stats. And let the stats do something else and these be separate to that.
Yes.
I'd be curious if they ultimately go that route or not, because I know like people still have issues with some of the various classes, and they're like and they're still always adjusting them. Like we just got like a nerf of like Titan Barricade recharges and dodge recharges and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, should we from this week, right? Should we talk about how Destiny broke?
yeah. I was gonna get there because that's like,
okay.
They go over that in the TWAB a decent amount.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we'll definitely talk about how the game was down. There. The game was down for like 24 hours this week.
Yeah, we had to go to rehab for a little bit.
Yeah, actually,
get ourselves checked before we wrecked ourselves.
To go touch grass, can't believe it. But yeah, that was the first thing. The article is just they're bringing it down to 30% damage reduction, and it'll have like a smoother curve, like you said. Yeah, I don't really think this will make that much of a difference at the end of the day. Like, I think it'll be fine. It'll be one of those things where like we're gonna be getting our asses kicked, and we'll like think about it a little bit, but it's like actually that's not why we're getting our asses kicked.
Yeah, and like there's gonna be a new subclass with its own kind of stuff going on, and I think everyone's gonna be running that, so all of everything will feel different and potentially be different dangers and whatnot. So
yeah. The next couple parts of this, we're just kind of talking more like general mod stuff. Like they're saying, like basically there won't be what we know as high energy fire in the game right now as a mod will be not that way anymore. It'll be more like elemental damage specific, and then you'll have mods you can actually stack to like basically recreate high energy fire. So that's kind of the things I think that's just
we talked about this a little last week.
Yeah, and I think that's just like again a good example of like they said that the builds you can do now won't exist, but there will probably be like equivalents to those, and that's like I think a prime example of like you'll need to get armor. It'll still be part of armor charge. You won't just get the free passive buff you got before as much, but you can still kind of build in a way that you could get that, but you have to work a little bit more for it than you could before.
Yeah. And they mentioned like time dilation, which would be like elemental time dilation, the stasis mod from before. Sounds like it will just be like the time dilation mod, which will increase the length of your armor charges. You can stack those. You can stack these damage increasing mods. Again, still a lot of questions in my head of like, are they going to be like helmet mods? Are they going to be foot mods? Are they going to be able to be slotted anywhere?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, where's which one of these and which type of these? They kind of say a little bit of that where they say like they mentioned this one where what was it? Their leg armor mods provide a bonus to weapon damage of a specific type while you have any stacks of armor charge. So that's where those will probably be, where it'll be like solar energy fire or something like that. Or arc energy fire. I'm guessing those are going to be in the leg slots. But they also say here that like you can mix and match them. It's unlike Font of Might, where it says unlike Font of Might, you can pick which damage type the bonus applies to, and it is not limited to matching your subtype class. You can even mix and match, say, 2 mods that grant bonuses to your solar weapons or grant bonuses to kinetic weapons. So that's interesting. So like you probably wouldn't get it. So they probably won't get overall damage like high energy fire does to one specific thing, but you ultimately can do different types, which is cool.
Which is good,
and it makes sense because we're gonna have a whole extra weapon energy type with strand probably,
and like people like, hey, I want to run Reed's Regret, but I want to run well. It's like okay, now you can get a damage buff for Reed's Regret and run well.
Yeah.
How I guess I mean that would even be easier because right you would pick up an orb of power, boom, you got armor charge, boom, your Reeds is doing more damage.
Yep.
Right, you're gonna have to you could give all your leg slots I guess to like kinetic, solar and stasis, so that way like your solar primary weapon or whatever has it. So like yes, you'd be kind of sacrificing bits of your loadout it seems like, but I think that's cool still. Yeah.
It's like I like this example overall in this article, but again, I think it is like something we talked about. It's like it's so much stuff is changing that it really will have to just be like Well, once we get in, by the end of the first week or two, we'll like actually have a proper grasp of like what this is all is doing.
Look forward to the first full hour of our Lightfall stream, which is the first 30 minutes is us in queue to get in game, and the second 30 minutes is us making our build.
45 minutes in queue, 45 minutes looking at menus of weapons in Eververse store, and then another 45 minutes of
a lot of Eververse.
45 minutes, and then 45 minutes of making a build, and then we get Strand. Then we get Strand probably like 2 missions in, and then we'll have another 45 minutes.
Yep. That's gonna be a good 45 minutes though. I'm stoked for that.
I know, right? Exactly. It's gonna be interesting. Good times. The other thing, which was just like a nice confirmation that I wanted to shout out, because they mentioned in that build cover article that like the void or like the subclass 3.0 verbs are going to be now anti-champion specific. Like you had volatile rounds, I think it was for anti-barrier, and then there's a few different things like suppressing overloads. Obviously, these are also, some of these come from weapons, and I think there was like a back and forth from some people in the community, which I thought was a little crazy.
Yeah, but, they were overthinking it.
They were overthinking it, as most Destiny people do, and they were like, "Well, they don't say weapon stuff; they say abilities, so it's only going to be the stuff from the abilities. We don't know if it's weapons yet." And luckily, we got the confirmation in this article that if a weapon has a 3.0 verb tied to it and can proc those things, it can stun a champion. Now again, it's great. I think this one. I will say the one thing I think this does confirm, which I think we brought up, was blinding nades on a GL. I don't think that's gonna stun an unstop, unfortunately, because I don't believe that blinding interacts with the arc blinding effects in any way. Like it doesn't proc anything from those. But even regardless of that, like thinking of like how easy it is to do. Like basically that makes every arc melee in the game. Well, I don't know if any of the arc warlock.
I hate to bring it to you, but the arc warlock does not have a good melee.
Fair enough. But the Titan and the Hunter, those are what I use the most, are the blinding melees on those, and that just instantly gave me melees that like can blind at any time, and especially my arc Arc Hunter, I have that up pretty much at all times through my build. It's pretty cool.
The slide arc melee for Warlock does jolt, so that will stun overload champions. Yeah, and they have a tendency to sprint around, so I like the idea of like sliding and teleporting into them to stun them. That sounds fun. Just
catch them as they get out of teleport and just slide them. Yeah, that's cool.
But this does confirm that the Riptide will be the most OP weapon. Yeah, Riptide,
like pretty much any chill clip.
Any chill clip weapon will be good.
Was going to be crazy good, because there's Riptide. I have the
Deliverance.
The Val Disciple one I have crafted with demo and chill clip. It's really good.
Yeah, that's what I have as well.
There's multiple heavy weapons that have chill clip, like rocket launchers. You can just
Bite of or Bump in the Night is the stasis one, and Palmyra. Yeah, so there's just tons of great stuff. The other thing worth pointing out is they said fire sprites, ionic traces, and void breaches all grant different amounts of energy versus universal like elemental wells, which is interesting, because like stasis shards only give you melee energy. I assume they're going to change that.
Well, they do different things. They give different energy on different classes. I believe on Hunter gets. I think Hunter gets different. I think stasis shard. Well, I guess it's just because it makes them wells. You get all the ability energy you would get from a well from stasis shards. But I think they give different classes different elements, and maybe that's also what they mean from this as well. Is like a solo sprite might give like so this particular thing back on a warlock, but it might give something different on a hunter.
Yeah, or it could be like void breaches give energy to all things, but they give more class ability energy. Something like that. Yeah, it's interesting that level of change does like worry me as far as like getting abilities back. Like I think Arc Warlock is going to be fine, but
I think we'll still be able to. I think this is very intentionally bringing it in, just because like the inherent fact of like, think of like how easy it is. Like you can to make wells and a lot of wells at the same time, and also like for every well you're picking up, you get ability energy to all your abilities. But also, it's also doing the same thing, like giving you armor charges at the same time. So now you can also get benefits from Charge of Light and getting all your abilities back at the same time. Where I think this is gonna separate that in a little bit more. It might be possible, like with maybe like certain very specific things to make it so elemental. Those elemental specific items give you armor charges, maybe, but. I could see that being much more limited for an intentionally having like slightly more separated systems, so you can't just have like all in one easy access to do things. Because I think of like a build I have now, the Arc Titan, like a storm grenade Hoyle build, where that is literally you can throw your grenade, make a bunch of wells to collect wells, which give you charge with light, and then you combine that with the fire. I think it's called firepower mod, which whenever you throw a grenade, it consumes your charge with lights to give you grenade energy. So you can. That's how they were doing the thing with Hoyle to like literally throw infinite thunder grenades, and like the fact that
basically what I do with Osmiomancy on Stasis Warlock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I do that. I do that as well. Because you have the 2 grenades and it's super easy to just proc that. I think, the fact that like you're basically using a different, like a completely different style of mods to make the other mods more useful, if that makes sense. Because otherwise you don't really use Charge with Light. So I think that's maybe what they're trying to maybe slow down, because that is very strong. If you really think about how kind of easy it is to just get all that stuff. And
that's where loop.
So I think that's what they're kind of, I think, going to go. I think those kind of things are ultimately what's going to hit the hardest.
Yeah. And that's where like stuff where they were talking about in the big build crafting post of like, some things are going to take multiple armor charges. It's like, you think you're going to get grenade energy back with 1 armor charge. It ain't going to happen. Yep. It's going to be at least 2 or 3. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. For sure. Another good weapon that they pointed out in this that I think will also be very good. And I didn't think about this till more recently. Is like when they called out Ager's Scepter. Because obviously that can slow and freeze and shatter. So that's literally 2 champions by itself. On top of all the other ones where you have Prometheus Lens, which I believe ignites enemies now. There's Cold Heart, which Cold Heart makes ionic traces. So I don't think it does any other arc things, unless it does when you charge it or something.
With the one fragment on arc, you can make blind stuff. So right? Which is what I do. Yeah. And then if you're on Warlock, right, any blinded enemies you defeat will get another ionic trace, which then powers up Cold Heart. So yeah, it's a very fun loop.
That's a pretty good loop, yeah. And I know there's the I don't think it's called Wave Splitter. It's Wave something though. It's
Wave Splitter. Yeah, that's the void.
Is it the void
trace.
One? Okay,
that will suppress.
That suppresses. So they like inherently were probably making all of these trace rifles just naturally good for that. And obviously then there's even the legendary ones now, because I've been slowly I crafted a couple of those, and because I just wanted to try them out and like make some builds. Like the one from this season is actually very good. It's the Arc one.
Yeah.
It gets Volt Shot. So there you go. There's I think Volt Jolting does, what is it? Is that Unstoppable?
That's Overload.
Okay. And then there's the Dares of Eternity one, which is also craftable and now has Incandescent on it. Which that's Scorch, which I don't think Scorch does any.
Scorch doesn't do anything, but ignitions will stop Unstoppables.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Prometheus Lens does that.
They said they're going to update it. That's going to be one of the exotic tickets for updates in Lightfall.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would make sense with how that works, because you're like you have to keep it on an enemy, and it's like getting more powerful. I could see that just being like, if you get to full charge, it ignites the enemy or something. That make a lot of sense. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. And I think that's definitely the good majority. Like most of the other things were just like clarifications of like, hey, oh darn, your loadouts out the gate won't be able to save your ships or sparrows. Any of the cosmetic-y stuff, like that's okay. Like it's not the end of the world.
I never changed those anyway. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. And they said like, match game is being removed and clarified like it could show up in special activities in the future where we want to deliberately tweak gameplay. That to me sounds like maybe they'll just like throw it in one of the event things. Just call it a day, and that's fine with me. But that was it. There were just some like nice clarifications from that PC Gamer article of all that big stuff. But next up, we had another blog heavy week. And I think just in general, as we get to Lightfall, they
think we're gonna get one every week. So
yeah, basically, I agree. It's like on top of a TWAB, because I think they even say at the end of this article they were just like, hey, from here on, you're going to see a lot more like multiple article blogs rather than just like the TWAB that is just like a giant textbook. So now they're trying to, I think, take some of those bigger, longer, deep dives and make them
looking
separate
forward to
articles and now have the TWABs.
I'm looking forward to that sandbox article that's gonna nerf all of the exotics that we're abusing.
Yep,
I'm sitting here thinking like, there's no way Fallen Sunstar does not get nerfed before Lightfall, with how it does like ionic traces and stuff. There's no way Heart of Inmost Light doesn't.
Oil. I wouldn't even be surprised if we get the ultimate Bungie move of nerfing. They're finally going to give that one horrible looking Warlock exotic, the solar one with the fusion needs. They're finally going to give it a good looking ornament, but then they're going to nerf it.
But they're going to nerf it. Yeah. Sorry, Moo Dress.
Just call it done. Yeah, just calling it now. That's going to happen
unless the ornament is actually like just a cow.
That would actually would be pretty funny.
I don't know.
That.
Our friend Phil calls it the Moo Dress. I don't know if anyone else calls it the Moo Dress.
Yeah, he did.
What's it called?
That's a Starfire Protocol. That's what it is.
Starfire Protocol. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where they came up with it,
but yeah. Yeah, it could be something. I don't know. But yeah, I could see that one being knocked down a peg or two. I mean, they might just hit fusion.
You might want to say that one for the week right before, so that way soften the bullet, like let the excitement still be there
for sure. But yeah, we got another article. This is economy updates and more coming in Lightfall. So basically, they go over a bunch of stuff here. I can just kind of start off at the top here. Starting in Season 20, which is the season that's launching alongside Lightfall, Umbral Engrams will no longer drop in Destiny 2. But don't worry, seasonal
content
such a
lie.
Will transition to using seasonal engrams. See,
they're gonna look the same too. Like it's
okay. So that's what. So you're thinking that as well, because that was the thing that I wasn't fully thinking of. Like, so engrams will still drop, and you'll still get engrams to like go take places. They just won't be called umbrals. They'll be called seasonal engrams now.
And I imagine if you take them to the Cryptarch and decrypt them instead of just world drops or whatever, it'll just be seasonal, a random seasonal, right? Like
because that was my thing of like if they're gonna be like that, or I was also thinking it wasn't just gonna be no engrams or dropping at all, and you just would have to do seasonal activities and then like go get seasonal engrams from them. But like that would make more sense if they have to have like engrams that still drop all the time, because that's how you get a lot of those world drops. And there's also like the world drops tie into getting the gunsmith rep and stuff. So like if they just like completely disappeared world drops, I think that would be kind of bad. Actually,
yeah, no, I just think they're renaming them.
So I think they are as well.
But again, the decryption. I wonder if like in your inventory screen it'll have like just like the seasonal symbol on the engram, right? Maybe that means like each season will have its own engrams. That sounds like it's maybe getting a little messy, and I don't like it.
I don't think it'll be that. I don't
think it'll be that. I
think it'll just be you'll still have like season specific currencies, and you'll have seasonal engram but you'll still have to get currencies from the actual seasonal activities to then give into these. That would make the most sense to me, at least, I guess.
Yeah, it just maybe helps like the cryptarch decryption process, like help you get more of like that season's loot specifically versus just like world drops.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be a big thing. And
maybe
who knows? I'm curious like how they'll benefit, the game will benefit from that, if at all, or if it'll really change anything that much. It might not. We'll have to see. They said if you still have Umbral Engrams when the season starts, you can still just take them to Rahul and decrypt them. So it's not a big deal. But it looks like you probably won't be able to hold on to those and like use them for focusing, because I guess you now will have to get those seasonal ones to do that. This is the big one for me, and I think in general from like the biggest wins from this article are like some of these changes where now they're basically making Ada 1 the proper cosmetic vendor with this change, because obviously mods are going to be in Guardian ranks, so we're not going to have those Guardian ranks anymore. We're getting Guardian ranks from that now. All the mods from the Guardian ranks now, instead of going to Ada and trying to get them. So basically, Ada 1 will now have a bunch of shaders that were originally kind of hard to come by. Some of these are like actually ones that were like gotten from random really old seasonal events that were like part of Sunset content. A lot of them were also just like general ones that you could go get from the Bright Dust section each week. Now she's just going to sell them for Glimmer. You can just go to her. She'll have they word this as at the start of season 20 that you will have 3 shaders. What is it, each week?
Each week, yeah.
But I'm assuming since they're saying at the start, that means she'll get more maybe in a later season. Probably would be my guess. This is awesome.
Yeah,
they're just
great.
You're just gonna be able to buy shaders and not spend any Bright Dust to get these. I would say if ultimately I think some of us probably have a lot of these because they are like mainly year 1 shaders. But there's some extra ones in there too, and I think it's kind of cool. They also brought back all the old. There's like a bunch of old like of the what was that thing they had in year 1, the war cults and the New Monarchy, like those.
Oh groups. Yeah, the different companies or whatever.
The different
factions.
Companies. Yeah, the factions. That's the word. They'll have all of those shaders in there as well. So that's cool. That's just a cool. Nice.
That's kind of like the theme of this update is like, hey, if you miss some cosmetics, you will be able to get them.
You'll be able to start getting them from just playing the game, and that's really good. Next we get into, and this is going to be a big info dump here, so I'm going to try and give a more general overview. I will shout out, in this video version, I am going to pull up an infographic that a really cool person on Reddit made. I'm going to pull it up here in my face real quick so I can get this person's name just to have it sure. But the video version, it's from a Reddit user by the name of Testify. He made this huge, or he or they or she made a huge, basically all the information about this focus, updates to like Engram focusing and legacy focusing that they go over in this article. They broke it all down in an infographic by each vendor, and it is really it's really really well done, and it's a lot though. But basically, as you know, currently in the game, Crucible, Gambit, and like Trials of Osiris and them have like focusing. They have their vendor specific engrams, and then you turn those into like focus for specific weapons that come from those activities. Now, with Lightfall, Zavala and the Vanguard strikes are getting that same system, which is great because there's a ton of weapons that obviously come from that, either the more general Vanguard weapon drops, or now also the Nightfall weapons, and even just Adept Nightfall weapons as well. They'll have all of those available, plus older stuff with legacy focusing. That's straight up just stuff that was from like most of it's from like year 1 of Destiny 2, that was like sort of would very rarely show up in like something like Azure where you had pieces like armor sets that you could buy off of them. Now these all the vendors across the game, Vanguard, Crucible, Gambit, Iron Banner, and Trials of Osiris are now going to have some of these older sets just available for you to earn by going through these focusing systems. But some of these will be pretty costly. I'll go into some list of guns here. But again, I'll have an infographic here so you'll be able to actually see the weapons. But the Vanguard weapons are going to be pretty much everything that's in the game currently. I don't know if they're adding anything new to this just yet. Like I don't think they went back to a lot of the older weapons in this regard with some of these like main playlists, because like the list here is like the Xenon Class 4, which is a shotgun, Third Axiom, Royal Entry, the rocket launcher, like all this stuff has been in that playlist for like the past like year or two to earn. But now you can just go and now you'll be able to focus for them specifically if you want those roles. The Prolonged Engagement, which is that new stasis SMG from this season, will be in that focusing pool, because that's the whole thing where they introduce a new weapon drop into the playlist that you can like farm the playlist for a drop for. But in the season after, it'll get added to the focusing to do that. Like that's already how it works now. It'll continue to work that way with the new stuff that's getting added to the playlist. And then we have obviously, like I said, Nightfall weapons. So Nightfall weapons that are currently in rotation that aren't a part of the legacy focusing, you'll be able to get those as long as you've acquired one. Just from a general drop playing through Nightfalls, you can then go focus for these as they are. I think is it go by the week for those as well, but are they just always there?
So the Adept one is the only one that's going to be weekly, only available on the week.
Got it.
That it's available, and then they have this like ticket system where you get these. What do they call them?
They're Adept. They're Adept Nightfall ciphers. Correct.
Yeah. Which seems weird. There's a lot about the costs here that seems weird.
Yeah. Definitely the cost. I actually kind of like this cipher stuff, and I'll get into that once we get into that. But I just want to list the weapons that'll be available at the gate here for Nightfalls and C20. That'll be the Militia's Birthright, the Grenade Launcher, Mindbender's Ambition, the Shotgun, Wendigo, Grenade Launcher, Hung Jury. Basically, a lot of the weapons that are in the current season. But now we also have the Swarm, which is a machine gun that's coming back into the rotation, because that was in a while ago, but it did not have origin traits yet. So now they're bringing it back with origin traits and probably some updated perks. And we are also getting the Buzzard, which is a sidearm. This was like the pre I guess Beyond Light Destiny 2 era of what they call them, pinnacle weapons.
Yeah.
And they were basically like curated roles that these guns, they'd only have this role of this gun that would come in and do that. Wendigo, that's a grenade launcher, was the same way. Of it had a specific role, and that's what made it really good. But now since they've been bringing these back, they've been adding the random roles to them, and they're updated with like the origin perks and stuff like that as well. So they're doing that now with this Buzzard sidearm. I never used this sidearm, so I don't know much about it. So I'll be curious if that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's cool. Those will be the new weapons for season 20 of Lightfall.
Yeah, which means we're losing Horror's Least and DFA.
Yep.
Which, if you're listening to this, it's too late to get Horror's Least, but hopefully you got a good one.
Rip the Horror's Least. Rip. Well, I will say if you had gotten one, the base Horror's Least, if you at least gotten a general Horror's Least drop at all, that will be in the legacy focusing. So you won't be able to get an Adept anymore, but you will be able to still go through this legacy focusing system that we'll get into deeper in the article. And still get a Horror's Least at least from that, which I think is still pretty good. Better than it is now, where now you just kind of, if this legacy stuff wasn't here, then it'd be like, well, maybe it'll come back, a year from now, like the Swarm and Hung Jury are now. Like,
I don't know why they're bringing the Swarm back, I will say.
I guess like it's just the continued of like, these weapons did not have the origin stuff, so why not?
Sure.
that makes me think, Palindrome is probably next because these were the ones that were like,
yeah, Palindrome is like notoriously missing from this list.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that will obviously come back.
Yeah, if Hung Jury and Swarm are coming back, I think that'll absolutely come back. But yeah, so yeah, let's now we'll get into the adept stuff, like you said. Now I guess it'll basically be once Grandmasters open up during the season, then we will start being able to acquire these adept Nightfall ciphers. Then you'll be able to focus at Zavala for adept drops. Now, basically how this works is the number of ciphers awarded per GM Nightfall completion. So for Platinum, you'll get 2. Gold, you'll get 1, and anything below that, you won't get any. And that's just for base. So I'm curious if you do like a double Nightfall reward, then maybe that's 4. You'll get 4 per those, which is that'd be pretty all right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they basically get, and here come the costs for these weapons. So for a general Nightfall weapon, you'll need 1 Vanguard Engram, 20,000 in Glimmer, and 25 Legendary Shards, and none of the ciphers. However, if you want an adept Nightfall cipher, you'll need 3 Vanguard Engrams, 50,000 Glimmer, 50,000 Shards, 50 Legendary Shards, and 10 of these new adept Nightfall ciphers. Now, yeah, that is I will say that is costly. I don't think that's as bad as some of the ones we're going to get to.
Yeah.
But I am curious of the is 10 adept Nightfall ciphers the total we can hold? I hope not. I hope we can maybe hold more.
I would bet money that it
is exactly the amount you need. Again, also if that platinum amount is maybe hopefully increased when you would do like a double loot week for Nightfalls, I'd hope that would be the case. You get more of those to drop when you do this. Now, the reason I like this system is because you remember before the GM stuff, that how GMs work now, where you basically can, if you're a Gilded Conqueror, you get the 6 you have to do for the season as a Conqueror to like gild the title. You can do them once and then you're done, right? Before that, if you remember, we used to just be able to do any one. We can just infinitely farm it. This sort of brings the ability to do some of that back with these ciphers, if you think about it. Because basically now what you can do is get these ciphers and just hold on to them. And as long as you have gotten a Nightfall Adept drop previously, then you can just wait for a week where that is on sale to then go and get that specific Adept Fall and not have to like play through one of the pain in the ass GMs to potentially get this. It also allows you to basically be like, oh, it is going to be Warden of Nothing week or Lake of Shadows week. Let me even though if this gun isn't that good that week, now I can grind these Nightfall ciphers, and then when an actual weapon I want comes up, then I can just use the adept Nightfall ciphers to get a weapon, essentially, instead of having to painstakingly go through a GM you might not want to go to get a certain thing. Or if you want to be able to farm for a certain weapon, this gives you less of a chance to not have to farm a GM you wouldn't necessarily want to do to get that weapon because you might have already have it already from a previous time. So I like that. Like I'm thinking specifically of right now, like I have already had adept hung juries drop for me from seasons long past. Now it's coming up this week, and I'm probably still gonna go get them just to finish my Gilded Conqueror. But I would like more opportunities to get a nice one. Where now when the season comes around, depending on which week a hung jury adept is, now there's the potential where I can just do one of the easy GMs and get a bunch of 1 week, get a bunch of these ciphers, and then hung jury could be up another week later, and then I can just go and pull one from Zavala's stash with his adept drop to get another roll, rather than, oh boy, now I have to try and get people to run through this GM this week with me which no one wants to do because they don't want to run it because of pain in the ass. So I like that it gives you the option, and it gives you a reason to farm GMs again a little bit, where like before, where like I always enjoyed doing that aspect of it, a little bit of just like farming them for materials and stuff. Where now there's an extra incentive to do that because you can get these ciphers for potential adept drop you want to get in the future. So I like that there is at least like it gives a little bit more flexibility, even though it could be a pricier investment overall.
Yeah, I just wonder. I like you said, if there's like a cap, what that looks like, and similarly, like you could just wait for the weapon that you're up, is up that week, and then do all the GMs, and then you get 6 drops. And then you'll be able to get 1 more, which just seems a little steep, right? Like 2 for platinum feels like, and you need 10 for a focus.
Yeah,
feels like very stingy. Which, to be fair, some of the rest of this, like it seems to me, like reading this, that the way playlist engrams drop is going to be different, right? Like maybe,
hopefully, right?
God willing, like maybe when you see, like at the end of matches of Crucible or the end of strikes, you can get an additional playlist engram that will go to Zavala or Shaxx. So that way, like when we start getting into the things that are like 5 or 7 engrams to focus for things that you've never gotten before, which I guess, like, whatever, it's just like the first time since you're just unlocking it. But it does seem like steep in a way of like...
It's steep.
Yeah, like I usually just decrypt those, whatever, because I'm just like hungry for legendary shards, and I'm just dumping them and then dismantling whatever. I know there are plenty of people that just like let them stockpile to like 130 or whatever. I've just never been one of those people.
Yeah,
I'm
sure I don't do that either. Yeah,
this appeals to those people for sure. But yeah, it seems like, I hope that they're also going to introduce like these. You can also get an additional engram on the vendor just from doing one of the things,
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely my key thing too. Of like, we'll get into the actual costly things here, because that's where legacy focusing is, right? Where legacy focusing is now going to allow you to, like I said, go back and get some of these older armor sets that were available in earlier years of Destiny 2. And basically get them for either, if you want the looks, the visual looks, the cosmetics, you want to up your Destiny drip game, now you can. And you can, or just like, if you're like a weird sicko completionist collectionist type person as well, this allows you to go back and get that stuff. So they're basically bringing it back for everything. So there's a whole bunch of sets for the Crucible coming back. I won't name them because, like, I mean, I immediately look at these names and don't even know which ones these are. Mm-hmm. There's Vanguard ones, there's Gambit ones, and I think the biggest ones there's Iron Banner and Trials sets coming back, because a lot of those Iron Banner sets like were in year 1 Destiny 2 and like kind of just never came back.
Yeah.
So I know there's probably a lot of people who would want them to come back. There's still even a few that they didn't even bring back. So I'm curious if they're just holding on to those to maybe make them a proper set and you can earn more recently. There's also the I know this one specifically. It's the Exile Trials set, which was kind of that initial Trials of Osiris.
Trials set. Of the 9 set.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the Trials of the 9 set. That's a different set. But
that's also a different set. I wonder if they'll bring that one back.
Yeah, the Trials of the 9 stuff, I don't think that is, because I want to say technically one of the prophecy sets is that Trials of the 9 set.
You're right.
But there is like a version of that, like if you went whatever the flawless version was in Trials of the 9 originally, there's like a special version of that armor you can only get from that. I don't know if they would bring that back. Probably not. But who knows? But basically, as you said, here's where we get into the costly things. Because if you were a player, well, so I will say like the base playlist stuff, Crucible, Vanguard, and Gambit, they're not that bad, because they are basically if you had not gotten any of these pieces of armor, it's basically going to be 3 engrams, 50 shards, and 10,000 glimmer for a piece. To get this, and basically those are like, and that's more of like a knockout. So you're basically just picking this piece of armor, each piece of armor, and then once you have them all, then you're good, and you're ultimately just getting them if you want the cosmetic looks for them, really. So those are all those. There will also be weapons included in this, like I said. So the Vanguard Nightfall weapons will also be, some of the older Nightfall weapons will be in this legacy focusing. And that includes a bunch of stuff. That includes Plug 1, Uzume, Hothead, Comedian, Duty Bound, Silicon Aroma, now also DFA and Horror's Least, which are going to be rotating out. So these are going to be in this legacy focusing now. So that's basically all the weapons that were basically since the Witch Queen has launched have been like slowly rotating out for the current ones that are in. Are now also going to be, you're going to be able to get them through this legacy focusing if you had not gotten them previously. But it's only the standard versions. It won't be adepts. Like no adepts from any of this stuff will be in legacy focusing. No adept trials weapons or Nightfall weapons. However, this is where it starts getting pricey, because if you have not gotten any of those weapons to drop before and are trying to get them now just for collection's sake, they will cost 7 Vanguard Engrams, 100 legendary shards, and 10,000 glimmers. So you'll need to get 7 engrams per weapon to even get that out the gate, plus all those shards and glimmer. That's a lot.
And here's the mess up thing. If you have gotten it, it's 25,000 glimmer.
Yeah, which
doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't know if that's maybe like a typo or something. I hope that's a typo.
It's consistent throughout this piece, so I don't think it is. The same is true for Trials and Iron Banner.
Yeah, I guess Trials is that, because I'm looking at the other ones, and those are like 5,000 lower in the other ones. So that is super, that is weird then.
So weird.
But yeah, Gambit will have two armor sets as well. And those are similar, where if you don't have them, they're 3 engrams. If you had them already, you can just do a single engram and get those. But yes, like I said, there will be Iron Banner focusing and Trials focusing, and that'll be for previous weapons that were cycled out and armor sets. And then so I'll say that here's the Iron Banner weapons that'll be in that focusing. That is Archon's Thunder, Reese Walker, Occluded Finality, Forge's Pledge, Peace Bond, and Frontier's Cry. So basically a lot of the weapons that had been kind of cycled out this past year are now going to be legacy focusable. And then there's also 5 armor sets here that are also returning that'll be focusable. And like we said, that'll also be like the Nightfall weapons, where there are 7 iron engrams, 100 legendary shards, and 10,000 glimmer. These honestly, again, I'm there maybe is a bias here because I'm not the biggest PvP enthusiast in Destiny 2, but 7 engrams for these 2 playlists is a lot to me.
It's a lot.
Too much, as they are right now. Like you said, there's
as they are right now.
There's a possibility, like you said, maybe there is, like maybe they will increase drop rates of just these engrams in general, and maybe we will get into the other part of this where they talk about end of match rewards that you can get. Those are mostly like cosmetic things, but who knows? Maybe they can also include now engrams, as well as end of match rewards, because that would be nice. Because I was doing some math here, because I am the sicko who likes the fashion game in Destiny, and I will grind, and I would like to. There's definitely I have a mishmash of some of this Iron Banner armor across my classes, so it's definitely been a thing of like, I have this chest piece on my Titan, but I don't have like the arms and legs. I have this on my this and that. So I would like to just like finish out and complete these sets, because a lot of them are really cool looking sets, but that is like 7 engrams per piece of armor. So let's just do like I'm doing the kind of rough math here in my head. So let's say you're trying to get a full set on one character. Let's see, that's 5 pieces, 7, 14, 21, 26. That's 35. That's 35 engrams, I think.
Almost. That's more than 2 full resets if that's the only way you can get engrams.
Exactly, and that's just for one set of armor for one character.
And that's assuming you don't want to send those into weapons or anything else.
Yes, exactly. Like because there are obviously being new weapons and new other things as well. And then, also again, coming from a person who plays all three classes, that expand that to having getting armor sets like that. That's like literally over 100 engrams to get
for one armor set across 3 characters.
That's too much. That is insane.
Yeah,
that they're asking that of that. That's also 700. That would be another 5. That would be
3,500 legendary shards or whatever.
Yep.
I don't have 3,500 legendary shards right now because I spent them all on Iron Banner fucking engrams.
Yep. That is insane. That's like, again, there's 5 armor sets from Iron Banner, and there'll be 2 sets currently for Trials of Osiris, but that'll also have weapons as well. That'll have Shaiya's Wrath, Reed's Regret, Aisha's Embrace, Burden of Guilt, Forgiveness. Arguably, like, those first 4 weapons are extremely good Trials weapons.
Yeah. Definitely.
And those will be
probably a better place to spend those engrams,
yeah, exactly. Plus whatever new weapons we're getting as well that we have they talked about a little bit in this, but we don't know exactly what they are.
We know the names of things, but we don't really know their deal.
Right. So this is definitely a worrisome thing. This definitely feels like a
1.0 version of this.
Yes, this will be this is going to come out, and if the things we're saying or don't happen, where they don't add more engram drops into that, give it like a month or 2, and we'll hear like, hey, we're going to lower these costs because otherwise maybe people are going to be real mad and complain about it a lot.
Assuming this doesn't change, maybe hold on to those engrams for a little while out the gate. If you want to do the legacy focusing,
just
keep that in mind.
Just kind of hold on to them for the season and hope you have them. So that's the focusing stuff. I do like that that they're doing this, but
it's good.
It's just that costs are just like,
I'm definitely like someone that's, I got, much like I think probably many people, I got into Destiny 2, like into it later into its life, 3 years after it had come out. So like, I look at all those holes in my collections and I'm like, like I don't need these like sunset weapons or old armor pieces, but it'd be nice to like, I have all the Warlock armor. Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So I appreciate the ability to get that. And like you mentioned, I threw out a theory kind of related to this. Mm-hmm. These pieces of armor were typically something dropped by Xur, which this would now free up a lot of slots on Xur. For weapons and armor. In my theory, and I'm sure they'll probably talk about it at some point, what's Xur going to be up to in Lightfall, is he going to Neomuna? I think they're going to add legacy crafted weapons into his repertoire.
Yeah.
So that way you'd be able to get like potentially one of each of a season's red borders, or just buy the pattern outright from Xur for like a set cost. Potentially you can only get one a week. Maybe that's something that you can use exotic ciphers on. Maybe they'll introduce like legendary ciphers to do that.
Yep.
I don't think they're gonna like just throw out all these crafted weapons and be like, well, if you weren't here, go fuck yourself. I guess
go fuck yourself for like this massive hole of weapons that are just gone. Yeah, it could also be possible that they're working on a system for that, and maybe it won't be there right at Lightfall. But I would definitely, if that is the case, I definitely say like, please tell us that. Please tell people that, because granted they did give us in the TWAB, and by the time this is out for people to listen to, they have made it so all of the season vendors and season drops of red border weapons, if you have the upgrades, are now going to be daily instead of weekly, which is
wild.
Yes. Basically, they're so you have now the next month to just get all of those if you want them. And I think I definitely recommend it. I definitely, it's really nice.
On that,
definitely recommend it.
What of those guns? What were you putting at top priority? Because I definitely have a few.
Yeah, I would say honestly, a lot of the stuff from this season, is really good.
Seraph weapons are very good.
The ICYMI SMG, the ICYMI SMG from this season, the disparity pulse rifle from this season, the Fire and Forget stasis fusion or linear fusion for this season.
Trace rifle that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, trace rifles, I would say, is worth it too, potentially, because it has volt shot. Other seasons, I'll just go down the line here, I guess. We'll go back to Risen, Sweet Sorrow, Arc Auto Rifle. Get that.
Yeah, it's maybe my favorite gun in the game. Definitely recommend Sweet Sorrow.
Yeah, it's great. It's great auto rifle. Just it's one of those good like workhorse weapons. You can just kind of use it in a lot of the general activities, and it just works. And it's nice.
Yeah, beat for beat, I think like Risen has like some of the best weapons in
there's definitely
the entire game.
Definitely a lot of solid stuff in there. Under Your Skin, Void Bow, very good.
Explosive personality, waveframe, solar grenade launcher.
I know if you're a sniper fan, I've heard the sniper from that is good. I have crafted that one, but I've not like leveled it up, so I've not really messed with it too much. But I've heard that is a pretty solid sniper option. Season after that, I think another good workhorse weapon that got overlooked was Tears of Contrition. Scout rifle, I think it's a really good scout rifle, kinetic scout rifle that I think just kind of get generally overlooked. That's very, very good. A lot of good perks on it. There is the Callus Mini Tool, of course, that is like, probably the best SMG in the game right now in a lot of regards. Besides the Ikelos that I just mentioned, like those two are like I would argue like two of the best weapons in the game. Period. Currently legendary and legendary weapons.
Nezarac's Whisper is really good as well from Haunted.
Yeah, it's a glaive. That's pretty decent, pretty good glaive. I should mention the glaive also from Seraph as well, the Kelgrath glaive.
Kelgrath is excellent.
Yeah, very, very, very strong glaive if you need one.
What about Plunder?
Plunder
probably has the weakest weapons.
Plunder has, I would kind of agree. Like those the weakest weapons to me. Just because there are ones in there, but then they are immediately like outclassed by like so many other things. Like I think of like there's like a arc linear that's in there, but like all the other linears you can craft are like way better, like Taipan and the one I just said, Fire and Forget. It's just outclassed by so many other ones. There's
Blood Feud is really good.
Yeah, the Stasis SMG Blood Feud is good from that. I want to go back to Haunted. I was trying to remember those. This Bump in the Night, the Stasis rocket launcher. That is a very good rocket launcher. Has a lot of good rolls. Auto loading and chill clip, and has demo and all kinds of stuff. Definitely a good rocket.
I think that is it.
I think those are. Okay, go ahead.
The Pulse from Risen is also good. We didn't mention that.
Yes, Peace of Mind. Yep.
Peace of Mind is like very extremely good.
Very good pulse rifle.
So good it's been nerfed, I think, twice and is still good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the Scout from Season of the Plunder is okay. If you want something more rangy with Volt Shot, I think that's a good choice. But yeah, those are I think are the only ones that I would recommend.
Yeah, same. I think that's a pretty strong list.
Great guns this year. Just
really solid stuff.
I loved like Season of the Splicer weapons and a couple of Chosen weapons, but like nothing else really stood out for me from that like whole year. But there's been at least like one banger every season this year, and I've really loved that.
Yep, 100%. And then again, what I mentioned before, now circling back to this the economy article, items like shaders, emblems, ghost projections, and other cosmetics that players could previously earn in the game will be added to match rewards. This means players who missed out on cosmetic rewards in the past have a chance of receiving rewards like the Carminica shader or the Red Jack projection at the end of a match. That's awesome. Chef's kiss. Like just end of match rewards in general, period. Besides just like occasional weapon drops, like having all this stuff across anything. This stuff, and it's across everything. So as of U20, you'll see these legacy match rewards implemented in Crucible, Vanguard, Gambit, and Iron Banner, and then Trials will come later down the road. But still, that's like all the playlists besides Trials is still awesome. Like that's like simple enough for me to just be like, yeah, absolutely sit in these playlists for a little bit longer each season just to get a lot of this cosmetic stuff, because there's definitely a lot of old Crucible Engram or Crucible shaders or emblems or Vanguard ones, shaders and emblems and stuff that I did not get from years past when I was also not playing Destiny as hardcore prior to Beyond Light. So like getting all this stuff in the game, back in the game in an accessible way is like, and adding them to these playlists is just
for free. Right,
really
you
nice.
don't need Bright Dust for these, right? Which is so nice.
And then this part was weird. And again, them literally going and talking about all this legacy focusing and other focusing and how expensive it is. Then be like, hey, by the way, we lowered the cost of a bunch of other focusing stuff. That's cool, right? And it's like, yeah, that is cool. Maybe you should look at this other one, this other things you're talking about, and maybe think about these prices again. But after that, we get they tell us what weapons are leaving the playlist and the weapons that are coming to the playlist.
We salute you, guns.
Yeah, rest in peace. We did go over a couple of these, and like speaking of those list of legacy guns, a lot of these weapons were in those lists, like the Forgiveness Sidearm and Burden of Guilt from Trials is leaving, but now we're getting back the Astral Horizon is coming back as a shotgun, and the Immortal SMG, which is a new SMG. Which you haven't seen yet, but that's
which
cool.
People are speculating is going to be like the adaptive 900 RPM because they just buffed those, which makes sense to me.
And also another tinfoil hat. What if it's a Strand SMG?
Ooh,
that'd be pretty spicy. Pretty spicy to put.
It's actually a Strand glaive. I want to put my tinfoil hat on. Yes, I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Love that.
Everybody in the comment, I need everyone who's watching this or listening to this to comment Strand glaive in the comment section for me.
Strand glaive. Get it in there. Get it in there. But yeah, next up, we have Iron Banner's the Razor Edge sword, Frontier Cry hand cannon are being cycled out, and they're bringing back two older weapons: the Jorum's Claws, the pulse rifle, and the Fox sniper. Those are coming back from older seasons, and they'll probably get updated perks and origin perks, because I think these are like year 1 Destiny 2 stuff.
Yeah, and similarly to like Palindrome in the Nightfall loot pool, multi-mock is not added into the Legacy Gear loot pool, which means I agree that it's probably going to come back like maybe season 21.
Yeah, good call.
Back into the Iron Banner pool, which is a bummer. I would like to get a multi-mock, but I'm excited to see like whatever perks they update that with.
Yeah, new perks and origin traits and stuff. That'd be a good way to do that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you mentioned with Nightfall stuff, the Buzzard sidearm and the Swarm machine gun are coming back, and the Ores Least and DFA are leaving, but they'll be added to that legacy roles. So, but yeah, those are all of the economy changes. Overall, a lot of good stuff. But
some questionable stuff.
Some questionable stuff about the those costs are definitely very questionable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I'm looking forward to that. Let's move on quickly to the TWAB that also happened. This was definitely a smaller TWAB, I would say.
Chill TWAB
overall. It does go over, like we mentioned earlier in the show, the game basically they tried to remove blues from the game earlier this week, and blues were not fucking having it, and they basically that was the running meme. It wasn't. We learned from this TWAB that wasn't exactly what would happen.
But that's canon in my heart.
But it is canon. The blues fought back because they did say that, like, this rolling this back does not let them remove blues from the game fully. The changes are in effect if you've noticed, because like when you delete legendary gear now, you get more gunsmith rep, and you get more gunsmith rep from stuff. And when you delete blues, you don't get gunsmith rep anymore. So like they're even more worthless. So like I'm assuming, like, it'll probably be like maybe this next patch that there will be with this weapon crafting thing we mentioned. That's actually a patch that is happening. That'll be probably happening close to when this episode is coming out at the next reset. I could see the Blues maybe they finally kick him out with that, or maybe they just might do it with Lightfall. We'll see. But yeah, this is basically when what happened was they tried to put out an update. The update came out, and people hopped into the game after the update to see all the changes because there was a bunch of stuff. It wasn't just the move of Blues, like they completely updated the AE aerial effectiveness stuff, and they made like catalyst quests easier, and there's a whole bunch of changes. But when all that stuff went live, there was clearly a bunch of issues. Like there's a bunch of crazy desyncing happening, and people lost a bunch of triumphs and full-on seals out of their accounts, and people were freaking out. So Bungie quickly make sure people didn't lose more stuff. They took the game down, and the game basically went down from that around that reset time, a little bit after that, to the following day. Where they brought it back up in the morning. It was almost like a full 24 hours. The game was down. So yeah, that's very rarely happened with Destiny. I will say, like that's
it's the third rollback in Destiny history.
Yeah, they ended up doing a rollback to the following basically like the morning of the Tuesday reset. It was like 8:20 a.m. PST is when they rolled it back. So if you did anything between that 8 a.m. time and the reset time when they took the game down, you would have lost some stuff. But they also said like any purchases that happened were refunded, so it was basically just like a full rollback. So people didn't really lose any of that stuff either when they did that. But basically, I'll just read this real quick of like basically what happened, and I think it's also always cool when they are very transparent and just like basically tell us one beat for beat what it is. We discovered that the issue was caused when some currently incompletable EDZ and Nessus triumphs were moved from Forsaken into the Archive Triumph section. To make that change, we used a tool that can move players' states from one location to another in the player's account. This tool is very powerful but requires careful and cautious handling. Due to a configuration error, we accidentally reran an older state migration process used for the Beyond the Light release. As a result, we ended up recopying old data from Beyond Light into the current configuration, essentially undoing certain aspects of player progression since then. Once we identified that the issue resulted in a loss of player state, we took the game down and rolled back the player database while we investigated how to remove the dangerous change from the build. Last night, we constructed a patch for 6.3.05 that removed the specific change that was causing the issue, tested it, deployed it into live. As a result, the fix, all players' account had rolled back to 8:20 PST on January 24th. And there you go. So they basically they used they made a little error and used a different rollback system that like rolled back a bunch of people's stuff. But then they figured it out and got the game back up, and everything's been good since then.
Just a reminder, making video games is very hard. Very hard.
On top of, running a live service game that is always running 24/7, that has to be like servered and maintained and constantly updated with stuff. I don't envy some of the people in
the panic that was probably happening. Obviously I'm so impressed by how they handled it and
the communication too.
Yeah, for sure. Like this is like one of those things where it's like we got to tell the people. We can't like not talk to people about it. Yeah. There was like every hour an update from the Bungie Health Twitter saying like, "Hey, we're still there. We're still working on it." Giving realistic timelines and all that. Yeah, and great. Luckily, a lot of the comments I saw were very supportive. Very thankful for the team staying. Yeah, overnight.
It's mostly like jokingly. I mean, there was some stuff where it's just like and I would say it was not just like this is just like another thing that people are piling up this whole this is reasons why they should just make a Destiny 3, and it's just like, all right, guys, come on, relax, like you're wilding out here. But yeah, but yeah, I'm with you. Like this is overall, I've always greatly appreciate Bungie's transparency and just willingness to just kind of tell us what's what and keep constantly communicating and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, it was totally fine. Once the thing went up, once the game was back up, the game's been fine since then.
I played Elden Ring for a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, all right, I'll just go play something else or do something else while whatever.
I felt hollow the whole time, but
so it was fine.
Yeah, glad they got it fixed out. I'm sure there are also the concerns for just like the stability of everything because of a lot of the issues and server stuff going on. I am certain that is something that Bungie is thinking about very actively.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll give them credit to there's definitely a time when I think of Destiny 2 and its big releases like an expansion and being like, well, I probably shouldn't even take this day off because I'm definitely not playing it on this first day because the wait times were like, I will give them credit where like Witch Queen and a lot of the seasons this year have been pretty smooth. And the releases, so like, sure, there is always a problem. There always could be a problem, but like I from some of their seasonal and the Witch Queen launch, I feel okay about, I've already taken time off for the Lightfall launch. And so I feel confident that we'll be able to jump in and start playing it. But who knows? Maybe, there could be the other end where maybe we get on and start playing and then maybe it gets rocky once
we'll see.
On and something. Like there's always those possibilities, but like I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, the worst I think that happened outside of like, startup centipede errors and stuff like that I know you've been going through was like when VOW launched and how crazy that was. But it's been a while since then also.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe also one of the reasons they're also doing this one on a Friday.
Yep.
Because they don't want to make the developers work on a weekend over a weekend, long hours over a weekend, managing this stuff. There's one other thing I was going to say on that aspect, but I forgot it. So let's just move on to a more fun topic.
Creepy crawlies.
The creepy crawlies. That's right. They're showing us concepts of, once again, they've been doing this the last couple of years for Festival Lost, where they basically show us some concept images of the armor sets that they're going to put on sale. And let the community basically decide for them. And I guess they were tired of monsters taking the L every year, so they changed up the looks. they changed up the theme and just went for an overall central theme for both sets, which is, like you said, creepy crawlies. So now there is a spider set and a beetle set for all the classes. And basically how it'll work this year is then you are also going to have the ability to vote for basically your main class, which armor set you like, and also your secondary if you play other classes. They basically said they were going to send out links through the Bungie emails, which they did something in the past, where the previous years you'd have to basically be like, I'm picking the mech armor for all these for all the classes for everyone, or you're picking these sets. Because I know there's always been sometimes where the people go like, oh, these sets are cool, but maybe the hunter one is like, eh. Where now this is kind of solving that, where now people can choose class specifics, and I think that's smart. Because I will say, like, for me, I will go as the person who plays all three classes.
Mm-hmm.
Spider Titan, Beetle Hunter, Spider Warlock. That's my choices.
Got it.
What you
I don't like any of this.
Fair enough.
this is too spoopy for me. I don't like all the creepy the hairs,
the hairy legs, and the legs coming off of stuff. Yeah.
If I had to choose, right, as a warlock only, right, I would probably go with the spider warlock. Does look pretty like the helmet's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like the little things on the.
He's got the little arm bands.
Yeah, and the shoulder spikes. But too spoopy.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
I like it too, just because like it looks. It kind of doesn't look like as much of like a warlock set as some of the other ones do.
It's less roby
in a cool way. Exactly, like it's kind of like more like an actual armor piece rather than just like a big cloak.
The Titan Spider is the coolest one.
The Titan Spider is the coolest one. I do kind of like the Beetle Titan as well. But I think but I think overall I feel like their armor sets, the Beetle armor sets, like there are armor sets for those classes that already look
Yeah, look kind of like
that. Like, you know, the Beetle Titan kind of looks like the raid armor from Kingsfall in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not one for one, but like has like a similar vibe, right?
Yeah. The Warlock one kind of reminds me like of that one trial set.
Right. Yeah.
In color scheme, at least, and the helmet's kind of like it.
Where the Titan spider is very different from a lot of the other Titan sets. And I think like mainly, it is that chest piece with the legs coming out of the back of it looks really cool. And even like you can see like it's like a set of legs that like wrap around like the chest and stuff. It's very cool. I like the hunter beetle set more because again I think there is like some hunter sets that are already kind of spidery looking, and also have kind of like the weird furry hair where like the beetle hunter looks kind of new, and it also looks like the cape will probably be like glowy in a way, like you can see like the horn, and I even think they mentioned it like somewhere like sea hunters can't live without glowing wings. So I'm assuming like the cloak will kind of glow.
Yeah, they look like moth wings, kind of, which is really cool too.
So it's a different look that I think is pretty cool. So those will ultimately be my picks. Once they'll send out the emails and we'll get to vote on that stuff. So we'll probably learn what those are in a few weeks, what everybody's going to vote for. And this also just puts in perspective, right, of like something I think is not talked about enough, where they are making these decisions for this Halloween armor in January, February.
Yeah.
So it's like
many months before.
So like I think it's like a good perspective check, right? Of like this is they're probably working on season 22 already in house. Probably there's probably people working on that already. That's like how far ahead they work on this stuff. So like that's probably why, you know, some of the things we get in season sometimes are like, oh, why are they doing this now after we spent weeks talking about this weird things? Like, well, that's probably because the decisions were made months and months ago. When the community sentiment was way different than it was.
Yes.
So they kind of have to try and, you know, future predict, which probably is never possible. But regardless, I think like, yeah, I would say, you know, I think I still prefer like the mech stuff from last year, and even some of the earlier sets. But these are still pretty cool. I like that they're always trying to do weird, different sets for Halloween. It's always fun.
Yeah, I'm still like I think I mentioned it on the last episode. They talked about the stasis and potentially strand ornament sets for seasons. Like those are the two that I'm like, I gotta see those.
Yeah, I gotta see those. I'm stoked for those too. I hope we see those soon. But yeah. The only other thing which we already kind of talked about already was the weekly deep site stuff. Is coming with an update next week, as well as since Iron Banner is coming back in this coming week. All of the reputation gains are being upped, as well as like the multiplier you get for like wearing the Iron Banner armor stuff. I'm glad they're doing that.
Also, that sneaky patch note of like 50% more Gambit reputation.
Yes, yeah, they did that.
We didn't know about that ahead of time.
Yep,
but I think
that was
that's
pretty funny. Yeah, and I definitely noticed it. But I've been playing Gambit for like the weekly stuff, and I was like, wow, yeah, this is much nicer.
This is how it should have been.
This is how it should have been, for sure. But yeah, that's most of the TWAB. There is one more thing I want to go over the TWAB, and I think we'll be wrapping up here. Mm-hmm. And this gets into some potential spoiler territories. I don't know if you saw this at all. Mm-hmm. But if you go into the known issues, I think they may have accidentally spoiled the name of the season finale quest.
Oh.
Because if you look in the known issues section, there is a known issue that says the abhorrent imperative quest cannot be picked up if a player's bounty inventory is full. Players need to make room in their inventory to pick up this quest step. I'm fairly certain we have not had a quest named that.
Called it. Yeah, that does sound unfamiliar.
So that I think is that, and it's also like I think it is worth calling out because we've already talked about us sickos being bounty prepping. There still will be one more mission that pops up on the 14th, so maybe you don't have full bounties just by then. But when I saw that, and also saw, I did see like a couple tweets pointing that out of like, is this a thing, right? There is lore about what this is. That was in the game. So this isn't like lore that's been pulled, like data mined or anything. Like this is lore from like King's Fall, Taken King era Destiny of what the abhorrent imperative is. So, again, I'm going to say spoiler warning if you don't want to know, because like it's a pretty direct thing of what this is. Basically, this is talked about in also a recent seasonal story quest, and how this is described in that lore page. Basically, this is the thing Rasputin was sent you to the Cosmodrome to get this data for, and that is the protocol in which if the Traveler were to try and leave, he would prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
So there's very much potential that the Traveler is going to try and leave, or like I think it's going to be a few things. The Traveler might actually try and leave, and that'll send us to try and stop it, or Rasputin's going to stop it in a panic. I think that's probably not going to happen. Although there's some things
that could be wild.
That could be a wild way to end the season.
What a cliffhanger.
I think what the more likely thing is, and this could go two ways, because we know that big satellite, Seraph Shield satellite in the sky, is the thing that they would use to shoot at the Traveler. I think that will either Clovis will take that over and try and shoot the Traveler in a like moment of like, hey, you guys screwed me over, I'm gonna do this, or like we know like Aramis and Shiva-Rath's forces are we fight them in that exotic quest. So maybe they get back on there and take over the station, which leads us to having to go there and stop that from happening. And to maybe stop that from happening, Rasputin may have to, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
That's where I'm thinking this is going now, after having read that and being like, oh, I remember people saying this as a thing, and this coming up. I remember hearing Bice say this at one point, what this was, and it was a big deal, and then being like, oh, right, we just had a mission at the end of the season about Rasputin shooting at the Traveler. Huh? Okay. So connecting some dots there.
Yeah, and again, the expansion is called Lightfall.
Lightfall.
And there's nothing that we have seen yet that has like explained why it is called that.
Yeah, it's true. We don't know. We don't know at all. There's potential. The Rasputin has to fucking shoot the Traveler, and then when he shoots the Traveler, it lets all the other forces come in or something. Who knows what happens? That would be insane.
That would be insane.
But yeah, you're right. There's really not been we've not seen, and that's probably obviously very intentional. They're probably gonna try and hold that to their chest as much as they can until we see it in game of like why this is why it's called this, right?
Yeah. All right. Here, crackpot theory for the end of the show. What if the Witness is on Neomuna to get the Augur Mind, which is the other AI that people have kind of pieced together was in the Spire of the Watcher, that was then on the Echo 1 vessel that would become the Neomuna colony, because the Augur Mind is the only one left after Rasputin dies that can activate the abhorrent imperative, and that Lightfall campaign ends with the Witness using it against the Traveler.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Crackpot theory. Theory time.
That'd be pretty crazy.
I'm gonna just keep throwing them out there. I'm sure they're all wrong, but
sure, we'll have to see.
We're having fun here.
Yeah, exactly. We're wrapping up the show here with some tinfoil hat theories. It's always fun. But yeah, that was our week of Destiny 2. Not as jam packed as last week, but I think there's still a lot of good information and stuff I'm looking forward to. We'll be back next week. I'm curious what we'll start seeing. So here's another crackpot theory. It's not the same thing in the game, but since we know that the 14th week is that finale mission, I don't think we're going to get some big news dump that same week, right? That would be like, they don't want to overshadow this big in-game moment, right? That would be my feeling, at least, right? We don't know for sure. So I think, we have still some pretty big details that we have not seen from this. And obviously, I think one of them is we do not still know a lot about Strand. And I think within this week or next week, we are finally going to get our Strand deep dive before that finale. Because I think that would be a good, get that in now before this finale. And I think the week before Lightfall, we're probably going to get the usual, always we get like a big Vidoc.
The Sandbox and update as well.
Sandbox probably too. But we also usually always get like a big Bungie Vidoc that talks about a lot of stuff. And more so, not just the expansion, but what's coming after that kind of vibes from that. And that's usually like the week before the expansion. They always usually do that.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting that'll be all that stuff in that last week. And the week before will be that finale mission, maybe one other thing, but I feel like it won't be a huge thing that'll overshadow that. Where I feel like if they were to show Strand during that week, I feel like that would kind of overshadow it. You know what I mean?
Sure. I always worry the cross sections of the audiences of who's going to see that mission versus who's going to read the blog.
Sure.
But yeah.
So that's where I'm throwing it. I think we're gonna get. I think we're gonna get a Strand deep dive, maybe just a Strand trailer that shows us some more in depth look at Strand and maybe a blog about Strand, because I think they did mention that in the TWAB last week that they called out Strand. So I'm assuming we're getting a blog specific Strand chat at some point here. We'll have to see what that is.
We'll probably get the other one in the weeks between. I would bet would be about Neomuna,
or
what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we'll see where that comes. There are other things I wanted to do maybe in one of these episodes. Maybe this will be a post Lightfall. Because if you remember, we did that year 5 prediction video. Yeah, that's one of the first videos we did for the channel. Besides,
I would love to go back and see how much we got wrong.
Exactly. I did do that a little while ago, and meant to kind of put it down in a doc. But I actually want to do that proper and then come back, because from what I remember from that, it was very entertaining. Just because we had a lot of the pieces, but they were just in we had this person with this person, but it was actually how it actually played out. It was close. Pretty close, but just missing one of the things. And I thought it was a very fun thing like that. And obviously we should probably do that again for what's going to happen after Lightfall. But I think we'll save that till after Lightfall for sure. It'll be very fun. So yeah, look forward to that. But yeah, we'll see you all next week for some more Destiny 2 chats here on Up the Tower. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Go read the Go read Alex's
column that I wrote on irrationalpassions.com and comment Strandglaive.
Strandglaive, get in there. And also just I did have a question come about this being on podcast services. This will be on podcast services soon. I'm hoping we just have to get it set up, which isn't a lot, but it's still a little bit of work. But I'm hoping by episode 3 or 4 we can get this. On podcast services, and I have these still saved, so we will have all the episodes in audio form on podcast services if you prefer to not look at our faces for almost 2 hours or whatever and just listen to our version. I get it. It's totally cool. But yeah, we'll have that soon. All right. Thanks everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.